Hey everybody, welcome to episode 11 of Culture Keepers. Of course, we got our friend Mark Martin here. We're going to be talking some more as a review of, as a ongoing talk.
Yeah, had a little
Mark.
break,
Yeah.
talked about Roush. I think we're going to be talking about Hendrick here a little bit, and then we'll kind of dive a little bit into the differences between the cultures of the two different teams.
Yeah, so if you missed last week, go back and check it out. We talked about Mark and his career and some of the culture stuff that he went through and how he learned and raising people up. I think it's fascinating to see people go through this in life and do their thing. So
remember,
Yeah.
like, share, subscribe. Right there, Kayla will do her thing.
Yeah. Kayla's back there just smiling. I love it. All right, Mark, well, welcome back. It's been a whole 5 minutes, I think. So, but it's been a week for them or a month or however long it's been. I don't know.
Yeah, so we discussed Roush. We kind of left off on the gas situation, but I think that was a little bit back. So we really got up to kind of 2005 in the late years with you and Roush. So then you finish out your career with them, and at what, 2009, right, when you went to Hendrick?
Yes, it was 2009 when I went. I stayed 3 years.
Okay. And what prompted the move? Let's talk about that first.
Well, it's a long story. I was tired of running the full schedule, and so that's why I left Roush at the end of 06, and I did 2 partial schedules in 07 and 08.
Okay.
And Jack kept calling me. Rick kept calling me in 2008. He called me twice and tried to get me to come drive the 5 car. I said, I'll come drive it for 24 races, but I won't run the full schedule. So I turned the 5 down twice.
And what's the full schedule? How many races is that?
38.
38. Okay. So it's about 2/3 of the.
Yeah. So, yeah, it was a big relief for me to not race all the races. And I was getting up there. I was 50 years old in 2009, so I'd been in the grind a long time. I didn't want to do it full time again, but I started daydreaming about what it would feel like to win one more time.
That tug.
Yeah, so I agreed, to come and do it one year.
A full?
Yeah, 1 full year.
Full year.
Because he wouldn't, he wouldn't give me a partial schedule.
Sure.
He said, you come run 2009 full time and then I'll give you your deal, which he never would intend.
That highlights a little bit of culture right there. He wasn't willing to break his own culture of saying full or nothing. So that kind of sparks that a little bit already.
Well, he's one heck of a guy. And so, I did my soul searching and decided I could do it full time one more time to have a chance to win a race.
And
we won 5.
woo!
Nice.
I finished second in the championship to Jimmy Johnson.
Wow.
Mr. 7-time
Right.
champion.
Yeah.
So, so it was quite an experience.
Yeah. So when you stepped into, I guess, the shop first time, was there a huge difference when you walked in there? What was it like?
It was like going to NASA.
Really?
I'd come home from the shop and Arlene was just like, "Oh, you are smiling." Arlene, it's just like going to NASA. Unbelievable. How many, everywhere you look are these smart people and, just wall to wall, how can we help you?
Sure.
Yes, sir. It was, I got to work with some smart people, some of the greatest the sport ever saw. I got to work with some of the greatest the sport ever saw at Roush's as well.
Sure.
But it just felt good. It felt right.
Yeah.
So what do you think it was? I mean, I know there's some things that we'll talk about, and if they come up in what you're telling us now, then that's great. If it doesn't, I'll bring it up. But what did Mr. Hendrick do that you think is different than Roush as far as hiring people, as far as collaborating with people and having people work more cohesively? What do you think it was?
Well, Jack, is extremely successful. Extremely successful. Legendary in everything he did. He ground hard, to get there personally, and he ground hard on the people as well. Rick is unbelievably successful as well. I think he learned some through owning car dealerships, a management style that he employed in racing as well. And it is just, it's lifting people up.
Sure.
It's hard to describe, but somehow or another, Rick made you feel so good about yourself and good about what you were doing and the contribution you were making, that you wanted to win for him worse than you wanted to win for yourself.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and he's just, he's just had a very different approach to people and personnel. There's plenty of people that didn't make the cut, with him as well.
Sure.
But he just had a knack for picking great people, giving them the tools that they needed, and lifting them up in a way that they were able to, realize their dreams, just as Jack did, just in a different way. Yeah, Jack made superstars out of a lot of people in NASCAR, because most people that came to work for Jack Roush hadn't worked in NASCAR or hadn't done much. Mm-hmm. And Jack gave them the tools. If they had the heart and desire, mm-hmm. he gave them the tools to realize their dreams. With Rick, it was just, it was a different approach. He was not ashamed of hiring somebody that was known to be the best at something. Jack never did that. I don't recall him ever going out, and Jack would call it buying.
Yeah.
Buying somebody, someone.
Sure. Yeah.
Paying a premium for someone who had already proved that they could do something spectacular. Mm-hmm. He didn't necessarily, he would just much rather give somebody who had the will and the desire, mm-hmm. The tools, and let them grow into it. Problem with that was it took a long time.
Yeah,
right.
And for me in the 6-car, that suffered. Man, when I went to the 5-car, Hendrick had been in business since I don't know what it was, 84 or 80, early 80s. And when I went there, it was just chock full of incredible people. It was 4 teams, 550 employees.
Wow.
It was just, it was massive.
So the two organizations, two very different cultures, neither one's bad or indifferent or better or whatever, they're just different. And that's what we try to talk about. This is a culture of accountability and pressure and bringing younger ones up. This one's maybe having the higher ones and making them even better. Two different cultures. So 3 years here, 19 years here. Not to say one was better or not, but the culture that fit you seems like was Hendrick's more. You lit up a lot more when you talked about the culture in that organization.
Yeah.
I mean, it felt the energy go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you have to understand that I was at the twilight of my career.
Sure.
And I had learned a lot. Had I walked into that situation at 23 years old, I certainly wouldn't have appreciated it like I did.
Oh, there it is.
There's no way, that you can compare because I had
timing's everything.
Yeah,
timing's everything. And
it
we
is.
talked about that a little bit too. One of the other ones, I think, that different parts of your life, people might fit here at this organization, or might fit there or there, but you it's okay to change and move.
Yeah.
I'm going to help you. If this isn't working for you, we talked about this at break. If this isn't where this culture here isn't working for you right now, I want to help you get where you want to go so that you can get the culture you want. And I still love you, but if this doesn't work right now, maybe it'll work later. And so that's a very valid point, Mark. Because I mean,
Big time. Yeah, I think so. I do have a question too, because we do this here. Hendrick did a personality test, correct? For
Yes, they did. Yeah.
What do you remember? What the personality test was? Any chance?
I don't remember. I don't even remember. I assume I took it, but I didn't pay. I wasn't paying any attention. I was,
Sure.
50 years old. I was, Matt, worked there, and he had to take it, and he remembers everything about all that.
Matt told us about it. So
I didn't pay attention.
It's kind of like the disc, and it might have actually been the disc test that he said that every employee had a different color on their name tag that was their personality. So you knew the guys with the red, they had a very dominant personality or whatever, and you could literally just hash it out with them right now. And the people with a different color, you might want to come in a little bit more with curiosity, a little bit less aggressive, because that wasn't their personality. So Matt did discuss that, and I thought that was pretty interesting that an owner of a race car team, and as successful as he is and doing the things he did, kind of fits what we do here a little bit too, because I want to know who Cormac is, top to bottom. I want to know, what makes him tick, what that uplifting stuff, what is so I know how to talk to Cormac and I know what makes him tick.
Well, you know that Rick did that in his dealerships as well. I mean, he owns nearly 100 dealerships, or a huge amount of car dealerships, and all of them are very successful. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, the foundation is probably very similar between the
That'd be my guess.
car.
Well, and I was curious. My curiosity went with was that part of his knack of choosing the right people? Hey, this person actually, I'm trying to build this type of person in this position, and we want this personality there. This is what I'm looking for.
Did he do that with the
That's
drivers?
just-
So he had you do it. So all the drivers did it. I know all the mechanics, and Matt was talking about all the people's staff. There's 550 of them that did it, but the drivers are the drivers.
Yeah, I'm not trying to discount the test and all that stuff, but they knew what they were getting with
Sure.
me, and
Sure.
and he pursued me extremely hard.
Yeah.
And I had a reputation, and everyone knew, what I was like. So
He was buying talent.
So in this case, the test wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I can speak to that a little bit too, because when I came back to the company here for Mark, I took it, but it was almost already
Just a
come on,
formality.
yeah, it was,
Yeah.
come on,
Exactly.
yeah, we have to take this so we know. So
Right.
yeah.
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 So, what do you think was probably? You said you walked in. It was like NASA. Everyone was smiling. Whatever. What was probably the biggest difference? Was Hendrick there? Or was
No,
he wasn't there. So
was
he was
also
also an
absentee.
absentee.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, but yet people didn't talk about him the same way.
They talked, no. I never heard anyone ever say anything negative about Rick Hendrick in the 3 years I was there, and in my entire years in NASCAR. I only heard a very small handful of anything that wasn't positive about Rick Hendrick. He's a good man. Treated people with respect, even people he probably didn't care for.
Sure. And it sounds like he created the management team to be a very similar way.
Yes, I felt like that everybody I dealt with there shared his vision for the company. And it's just infectious.
It is.
It's very much like what you guys try to do with your show. That was infectious, and everyone was infected.
Yeah. I could tell when you started talking.
Oh, yeah,
You perked up.
you feel it,
Yeah. So you still feel it.
Yeah. Now, once again, you have to
Nothing
understand.
against Jack at all.
You have to
No.
understand, I was a different person.
Yeah.
Sure.
When I started racing with Jack, I was 29 years old.
Yeah.
And I learned all those years at Jack's, I learned I learned a lot
You're right.
about dealing with people
Sure.
and about dealing with, not just in my race team, but with other people, other racers, sponsors, big business, fans. All that stuff is experience, and you learn.
You're right.
Then you get giving an opportunity, like I was given, to go drive for Rick Hendrick at 50 years old, which should be unheard of. And you fully appreciate the opportunity, and it is just fun.
Yeah.
It was always fun with those guys.
Yeah. Well, and I say this, and Tony Robbins says it on one of his things too, is you can't ever second guess any decision you've ever done in your life, because you can't change it, first and foremost, but you learn from it, right? And that experience makes you who you are today.
That's right.
So you wouldn't have been the car driver or the person you are at Hendrick without Jack,
No.
right? Because you got all that
He
experience.
gave me a chance when no one else would.
Yeah.
And
That's why you're loyalty.
About all kinds of things too.
Yeah.
Being able to, there's something that you've said several times now with Jack, is he was ready to start somebody from the bottom and build them up if they
He always
were ready
did that, and I respect that. And he should go down in NASCAR history as the greatest in that area. He made more little guys off the street NASCAR stars
Yeah.
and great careers than anybody else in the sport.
So in a sense, I mean, that's a fantastic culture in itself of building this, and Hendrick's they're just different. They're
Yes.
not worse or better, they're different.
Yeah.
Many of the people
Yeah.
at Hendrick were already super successful
Yeah.
when they went there,
Sure. Yeah.
and they're happy there.
Well, and I wonder too, I mean, because you didn't get to Hendrick until 2009, how that culture was built. It didn't start there, I would assume.
In the early
So-
in the early '80s, I don't know what it was like.
Right, yeah.
I raced against the car,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and they weren't as successful
Right.
in the early years. They ran okay, they did okay, they won some races, but the 6 car could typically outrun the Hendrick cars in the early years.
Mm-hmm.
The later years it was the other way around.
Sure.
Yeah. Nice.
That's interesting.
Nice.
Very interesting.
What else? What kind of feedback, since you've watched some of our show and maybe all of the shows? What kind of feedback could you give us to make this more enjoyable for our listeners, or to give more value, that we can give more value for people?
Oh man, I can't give you any positive, any positive criticism or pointers, because what you're doing is exactly what we've talked about. Either Jack and the way he gave people a chance to rise up, or the Hendrick thing. It's all about inspiring people to achieve their full potential, rather than keep them stifled in mediocrity.
Yeah.
And everyone can do that, not just you guys on the podcast, but everyone can spread that kind of positive vibe if you can, if you can inspire someone to be better, to be as good as the potential that they have. So many people don't reach their full potential.
Yeah. I heard a staggering statistic at church the other day. The pastor brought in a couple of counselors, and these counselors were talking about marriage counseling and just singular counseling for drug abuse, normal abuse, just any of this stuff. And they also talked about jobs and things like that. But the average couple will go 6 years in mediocrity, or 6 years without dealing with an issue, before it just finally festers up for them to finally do something about it. The average single person that's dealing with something single, they could be married, but they're dealing with something singly on their own, whether it's depression or drug abuse or anything like that, will go 11 years
Wow.
before dealing with the issue and finally just coming to a head and going boom. So with that being said, if you're looking for better culture, either create it yourself or go find something that gives you joy.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's no harm in you finding joy, because there's only one life and there's only so many years to live in. And I'm sure you've had some near death experiences, I'm sure, that went, whoa, this could have been the end. I know Arlene knows that.
Yeah.
I've talked to Arlene about this. So I know she knows that very well. So
Well, yeah. It's joy makes your life better.
Yeah.
And you know, the more that you can find that gives you joy, the more your life will improve.
Yeah.
sometimes you never know what that joy is going to be. I remember the first time we put you and Arlene and Matt on our boat, and we went out around Wild Horse Island, and they're from Arkansas. It's warm there, and it's middle of summer in Montana. It was warm, and he's got sweatshirts and boots. But the cool thing was, is we went around the island. We got to see all the bighorn sheep right down the water. You remember that?
Yeah.
And how cool was that? I mean, how many people actually get to see that? And there was, I don't know, 10 or 15 of them.
Beautiful.
Just giant sheep, and the joy on everybody's faces. I sat back, and I didn't take pictures or anything, and I'm usually the picture guy, and I just sat back and watched your faces and my wife's face, and I think my son was on there too. I don't remember who all was on there, but what a great time. And it just, to see the joy gives me joy, right?
Yeah.
Lifting people up, so it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So any last parting comments before we sign off?
You guys just keep up the good work.
Thank you,
Like
Mark.
I said before, I'm a fan of your podcast, what you guys are trying to do, and I wanted to be on with you and hopefully get you even more exposure.
Awesome.
Perfect.
We really
So appreciate you coming in, Mark. Yeah,
Thank
so
you so
enjoy having
much.
you around. So.
All right, that's the end of episode 11, right? Episode 11. Please remember, like, share, subscribe. We'll be kicking Mark out of here and then talking about him. And
My Mark or this Mark?
This Mark. Yeah. No, we just talk about you all the time. So.
It's right in front of my face.
Yeah. Kick him out, talk about him, talk about what we feel like we've learned through it and what we can try to let you guys know through our experiences.
Yeah, so thank you again, and we appreciate it, and we're going to do a little bit of talking behind Mark's back and see what we can get out of this, see if we can find a common theme with Mark.
Yeah.
So
Awesome. Thank you.
thank you guys.